All right, everybody, we are live with the Working Fans podcast today. It is the man they call Dave, and I have a very special guest. Guy's been wrestling for about 5 years. He's a model. He's a professional wrestler. You've probably seen him on NWA Power recently. Ladies and gentlemen, that dude, Jamie Stanley.
Oh, man, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on. It's going to be a good day.
Absolutely, man. So before we even get into like your fandom and everything into wrestling, what was what's Jamie Stanley's life like growing up? Like, what was your background and everything? Athletics?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Lansing, Michigan, which if you're not from there, God bless you because you don't want to be from there. Grew up, played all the sports.
Shout out to Landon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Football was number one for me. Played football all through school, high school, and in college as well. Played a little bit of basketball until I blew up my knee playing basketball. So then I was my hoop dreams were over at that point. A little bit of track and field. And actually, oddly enough, I was never a amateur wrestler. I always wanted to be a pro wrestler, but that wasn't one of the things that I did when I was growing up. But basically everything else I did.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, you did a lot of different sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, did you ever have any interest in, did you ever do anything else too besides athletics, like any theater or anything like that too? Or because you're a very good talker. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. No, actually, growing up, I was never into that. My sister was huge into theater. She runs the theater district back in Lansing for a local community college. So apparently she got all the acting chops and the entertaining chops. But I'm kind of getting the revenge on her for that right now with what I'm doing in pro wrestling. But yeah, growing up, I was basically strict into just sports. Looking back, I wish I would have, because obviously it would have helped me even more now, but never something that I really got into until I got into pro wrestling.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, the talking aspect you seem to have pretty good at this point. So
thank you. I can at least talk my way into buildings.
That's right. Now, so were you a fan of wrestling then? It sounds like you were from the start. What was some of your guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So I remember the first time that I remember actually watching wrestling was I was huge into WCW during the Monday Night Wars. So 1998 was like my banner year. And my brother, he's about 7 years older than me, and he was just starting to get back into it as well in high school. 98, 99, 2000, it was the craze. Like everybody was watching it. So I just happened to be watching it with him one time. And I remember we turned the channel, and it was Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper. But Hulk Hogan was in all black, and he was a bad guy. So I was like, man, what is going on here? I thought like he was the all-American man, like he could never do wrong. He was the ultimate good guy. And so that kind of piqued my interest. And not knowing then, I was like, man, like how bad is he? Like, has he gone to jail? Has he stole? Has he murdered people? Like, what's going on with Hulk Hogan? So being my brother being a huge role model of me, he kind of made that transition into me getting into pro wrestling and at least watching it when I was a kid. And ever since that first episode, I was hooked. Like I said, I was a huge WCW head. I love Hogan, Hall, Nash, the Outsiders. I love Sting, DDP, Goldberg, Jericho, Booker T, just the who's who of WCW basically. Right. Oddly enough, we weren't really permitted to watch WWF or WWEF at the time because it wasn't as family friendly as WCW. So we were staunch. We were WCW followers, and that was through. I remember we used to videotape every single Monday Nitro and every single Thursday Thunder, and we put it on VHS, which I'm dating myself now, but. We would film it, or we would record it and then just set it, and we wouldn't ever watch it again. So I look back, it's like, why did we ever record these? And now my parents' basement is just filled with stacks and stacks of Monday Nitro and Thursday Thunder VHS tapes, and it's like, I don't understand why we did it, but we thought it was a good idea at the time. But yeah, just from the first time I watched it, man, was totally sucked into that whole world and fell in love.
Oh man, that's cool. You can definitely tell the way you talk about it. Now, when WCW, I'll just ask this follow-up just because you're such a big WCW guy. When they eventually got bought out, you saw Vince on there. Did you stop watching for a little bit, or?
So yeah, so when my brother actually he went to college, he graduated from high school in '99, and so he went off to college, and it was kind of around that same time when WCW was starting to kind of go downhill. So
Right.
we lost interest a little bit and stopped watching it as much. And by the time 2001 or whenever it was when they got bought out, I wasn't watching it at all. But I do remember hearing the rumors that like, oh, WWF bought WCW and they're going to be on their programming tonight. So I do remember watching that one episode and having Vince and Shane and all of them show up, and it was crazy because it was like these two worlds are colliding. Oh, what's going to happen?
Right.
And it didn't get me back into wrestling at that point. But I do remember watching that, and just kind of being like, wow, like the wall is, or the forbidden door is broken or is torn down.
Yeah, forget about that. That was the original Forbidden Door.
It really was, yeah.
Yeah. Now, so at what point did you have the brainstorm? Okay, I'm gonna go try to do this. And at what point, and how do you go about doing that for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, I played football all through high school and through college, and my fandom kind of dropped off at that point that I just talked about, and it really didn't pick back up. Like I would float in and out, with The Rock and Cena and Batista and Randy Orton. Like I knew who all those people were, and I would watch it occasionally, clips and everything, but I never was really got back into it until I graduated college and I was done playing football. And when you are elite at a sport, or that sport is your life for your entire life, and then all of a sudden you don't have it anymore, there's like a huge gaping hole that you need to fill with something. So I was like, man, I took a job in Chicago, a sales job, and was working just being a civilian for a year. And I was like, man, this is awesome, but there's just something missing. I miss that, like that competitive edge or that competition that I used to have in football. So actually, when I was living in Chicago, I was just flipping through the channels. Once again, it's kind of a recurring theme, and saw Cena on Raw. And I was like, man, you know what? I used to love this so much. Like, I wonder what it would take to even like train. Like how hard could it be? Because they make it look so easy on TV. Right. So I did a quick Google search and realized that there was a training school. And by that time, I actually had moved to Tennessee in Nashville. So I was in Chicago and then moved to Tennessee. And then I did a quick Google search and found out that there was a wrestling school that was like 3 miles away from where I was living at the time. And the school was actually run by former WWE superstar Wolfy D. If you remember, he was in the Nation of Domination for a little bit, and huge in like the Memphis territory and ECW, and just a legend. So I was like, man, this is my sign. I got to at least go and just see. I'll go for a day, and if I love it, then I love it. If I hate it, no skin off my back. So the next day, I actually went, and I was just gonna plan on sitting in the chairs watching the training, and being the good entertainer and worker that Wolfie D is, he somehow got me into the ring. He's like, man, just come try this out. I was like, all right, man, I'll try. So from the minute that I stepped foot in the ring and started doing all the drills and bumping and doing all the most basic moves, I was like, man, you know what, I think this is for me. And so I decided to enroll in the class, and that was day one, and haven't looked back since.
Now, wow, that's interesting. Now, Wolfie D was a guy, like you said too, he was around all different territories too.
Oh yeah.
So like, was there anything you felt like he really concentrated on, whether it's the physical, the selling, the promo, and just because everybody's training, I'm sure, is a little different. What do you think was a big, at least for your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So he wasn't my trainer for a long time. It was probably only about 6 months, but I do remember I did learn a lot from him. I mean, like you said, the dude's been around and he's an encyclopedia of wrestling. So a lot of the things were like psychology, what makes sense and why it makes sense, where it does, and where to put certain things, and why these things would fit here but not here. So just like the little kind of nitpicky things with the storytelling and the psychology that goes into wrestling. And then I remember one quote that he said, it was one of the first days of training that I'll never forget, and that it still resonates with me today. He's like, okay, you guys need to get in the gym and work out and get as big and strong, as fit as you can, because you need to look like an elite athlete. You need to look like a fighter. Like, people don't want to come and I come to a show and see somebody who like their little 16-year-old neighbor could beat up, you know.
Right.
So I was like, oh, you know what? That's a good point. So ever since then, I just made it my commitment to, if nothing else, at least looking the part.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it makes total sense. Now, like at this point in your career, do you still like something like you make it a point to like try to study footage? Is that something that actually goes on, or do you just you keep your hand on the pulse? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So the guy that I'm training with right now is superstar Chris Silvio. So I'm in Orlando now, and he's got a dojo over in Tampa called Death Proof Dojo, and I've been there for about 6 months now. He's an agent in NWA, and that's actually how we met. And he offered me to come over and start training with him. So I've been doing that a couple times a week. And so he will specifically like tailor to me, give me specific homework to watch, you know, whether it's like Ravishing Rick Rude or, you know, Mr. Perfect or Shawn Michaels or Razor Ramon or, you know, people that I could actually go back and with the benefit of having the network and, you know, Peacock and YouTube and all that stuff that I can go and study their matches. So a lot of the times I'll devote to like specific matches that they have. And also, you know, I'm always trying to study and critique my own film when I can get it, whether, you know, it's an NWA or CYN or these a local indie show or anything. I always love to watch my matches back, as much as I hate watching my own stuff and I cringe at it. I make sure that I do it, you know, take notes and say, okay, what could I do differently here? What could I do there? And besides that, I do like to keep my hand on the pulse. I still keep up. I'm current, up to date on, you know, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Dynamite, Rampage, all of those, all the main ones. And I'll watch them when, you know, I'm doing cardio or when I have some downtime, whatever. But I do make sure I keep up to date because I don't want to miss kind of what's going on currently as well.
I had a fan question I was going to put to the end, but I think it kind of goes with this. What is some of your training routine?
As far as like in the gym weightlifting?
Yeah. Like, what do you like? What do you stay on top of?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm usually in the gym 5 days a week, and that's, you know, just a bodybuilding split. Like I'll do legs one day, I'll do chest one day, I'll do shoulders one day, I'll do arms, and then I'll do back, and then just repeat that. And then I have cardio at the end of that. It's usually HIIT or high intensity interval training, where you have like 20 seconds of all out max effort, then you get 40 seconds rest, and you repeat that for about 15 minutes. And that's a lot of that is to, number one, keep the conditioning up, keep the fat off me as much as possible, but also help me get my win for, you know, wrestling and doing drills and all that stuff in the ring, because it's really, really funny. You know, I played football for 20 years, and I would rather do 100 sprints up and down the field than do some of these, they call them blow up drills, because they try to basically get you to puke in wrestling. Yeah. And there's just something different about these wrestling drills that is the most tough thing that I've ever done in my entire life. So anything that I can do to kind of prepare myself for that is an added plus. So on my off days, I'll still get in and do a little bit of cardio, you know, or abs, or take a walk, whatever it is. I try to do something active every single day, whether it's in the ring or in the weight room, or just at the house doing cardio.
Now I got to ask you. So I'll bring this back to wrestling in a minute, but I saw a picture on your social media. It might have been with your daughter. I'm not sure. It was a picture of a cheesesteak, and you had yeah. And I thought I want to ask, because this guy does not look like he eats a lot of cheesesteaks, but obviously you have our cheat meal. So is nutrition? Obviously, it's got to be an important part of what you do. Was that a tough adjustment, or have you always been eating pretty well, or is that something you struggled with?
No, well, actually, it's something that I've had to do. Just my personality and kind of the way that I'm wired. Like, I don't know the meaning of moderation, so I can't just have like one chip or one Oreo. Like, I'll eat the whole bag, and then I'll run to the store and grab 5 more bags and just keep eating until I hate myself, basically. So I have to be like so methodical about, like, I know exactly what I eat every single day. I have a trainer, AJ Sims. He's a Cement Factory on Instagram, and he trains a lot of the wrestlers, and he's very high profile. And but I say all that to say he gives me the exact meal plan of what I can eat every day, and I eat a lot, but it's a lot of healthy stuff, you know, like rice and chicken and turkey and, you know, cream of rice, oatmeal. So I do make sure that I keep on track with what I'm eating every single day, and I never one thing that I'm good about is like my discipline. I'm very regimented to where like if I have a plan, I'll stick to that plan exactly, and I won't veer off even a little bit. So I do that because I actually do get one cheat meal a week, and that's usually those pictures that I post where I can go and not go crazy and gorge and order a million things, but I can have one meal where it's a free meal. And we usually do that on Sundays. We go out as a family, and I can, get a cheesesteak or get wings or get a burger or whatever. And I mean, I got to take a picture with my daughter with it, because if you don't do it for the gram, have you really done it?
It's those little things. I love it.
It is absolutely.
Now, you've been doing this for 5 years. So now 2020, you've been doing it for about 3 years, maybe depending on the month. COVID hits. Did you end up doing some empty arena matches? Did that slow you down? If you did, what was that like? How was that experience in wrestling at the time?
Yeah, so it was pretty crazy, actually. I had a WWE tryout scheduled for March 10th, I believe it was. And I think that was the exact day that like the world shut down. Yeah. So we got flown into Orlando, and we went to the tryout that morning. And they basically said, "Hey guys, thanks for coming. As I'm sure you've seen, there's craziness going on in the news right now. We don't know what's going to happen. The world is shutting down. So we're going to have to put you back on a plane this afternoon and send you home. And the tryout's not going to happen." They said, "We're not sure when a reschedule will happen. We're not sure if, but we'll be in touch." And that's basically the only info that they gave us. So obviously, I had been training for a couple months, just morning, noon, and night, and getting ready for this one opportunity that I had. And then we get there, and then we're like, "Oh, just kidding. We're not going to do it." So COVID hit me pretty hard in that way. But just trying to keep that positive mindset, knowing that, there is a reason, and it's not happening to me. It's happening for me. And, it'll bring about good. And I know that it'll be a good story, if nothing else. So,
you never know, right? I mean, everything going on with WWE, like that, going on right now too. Who knows what that company's going to look like within a year too? It could be a shakeup. You might be going in there at the right time. I mean, or who knows? Maybe another opportunity to approach itself too.
In the whole landscape with every company basically is changing so much, even right now. So, it's funny in wrestling. You don't believe anything until it actually is happening. But that's good or bad. Rumors. Anybody can say anything. Well, I heard this is going to happen. I heard that's going to happen. Well, we're going to do this with you, or we're going to do that. And you don't want to be jaded and be like, well, I'll believe that when I see it. But also, you need to be realistic and say, anything can happen, good or bad, at any time. So, to answer your question, I did do some empty arena, not necessarily matches, because a lot of the indies weren't running at the time, and I wasn't with NWA at the time, but I moved down to Orlando to be closer to WWE, and that was actually in the middle of the pandemic, after the tryout got canceled and no reschedule was put on the books. But I just felt a calling that kind of told me, you know what, you need to go down there and move to Orlando to just be closer and continue to knock on their door basically and keep bugging them. So packed up my family in June of 2020 in the middle of a pandemic and quarantine and all that stuff, and thank God we were able to come down here in Orlando and get a nice house in a great area. And we did that in June, and for the rest of the quarantine, or the quote unquote pandemic, I was doing extra work at NXT or Raw or SmackDown at the Thunderdome when it was here in Orlando. So did a lot. I was there probably 2 or 3 times a week doing extra work for probably 6 months. So it was a blessing in disguise, because I was able to stay in front of them and keep knocking on that door, like I said, and also just to keep getting experience and being in the room with all these amazing people and all these this awesome talent. So although I don't think I had any specific matches in empty arena, I was very involved in like the Thunderdome and all that stuff, and still tried to take advantage of it as much as I could.
What was your first time on TV, and what was it like in terms of like working in front of like hard cameras and stuff like that? Was that getting used to as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was some indie promotions that had hard cams, but it wasn't like national TV. But so right. Whenever you train, you always act like you're in front of a crowd, or like it's on TV and stuff like that. So they'll point to a wall and be like, okay, that's hard cam. You need to work towards hard cam. So I'd always been training that way. But nothing beats actually getting out there. It's a whole different animal once you're out there in the lights and everything like that. So the first time I was actually on TV was January of 2019, and that was when I was an extra for NXT and was in a tag match. And man, it was just surreal, like being in this place and walking out of the curtain, things that you watch every single week, and like it was a dream come true. And once you get out there, it was like all eyes were on you, and the lights were on, and you felt like you were under, you were in a frying pan. You were just sweating and hot. Everything was clicking on all cylinders, and it's like go, go, go. And it's crazy how quickly the match seemed to go. Like it felt like I walked out, and then 5 seconds later I walked back. But it was a good learning experience. Got some good feedback about it. Like I said, I critique myself a lot. So I thought that I was like, oh man, I just went out there and I blew it. I was terrible, this and that. But thank God that wasn't the case. And I didn't do too bad to where they didn't invite me back. But it was just very surreal. And it was almost like an outer body experience. Like you almost are, above yourself, looking down at yourself, doing all this stuff because it's a dream come true. So, until I was actually able to experience, there's nothing like it. It's awesome.
Now, before we get into like the NWA, what was even now, I guess, how's the traveling been for you? Just throughout your career, have you gone to any places you didn't expect? Have you gone to any different countries yet? What's the traveling been like for you?
Yeah, so actually in the past 6 months, it's really revved up. I was able to go a couple places that I've never been. Believe it or not, I had never been to Texas until a couple months ago. We wrestled in Dallas for CYN during WrestleMania weekend, so that was a blessing to be able to go there. When I started with NWA, we were in St. Louis, which I had never been there before, so that was a super cool town to be in and just explore. We were in Atlanta with NWA, which I'd always driven through, but I'd never stayed for an extended period of time. So to kind of just sightsee and do all that, that was pretty cool. And then actually, I believe it was 2 months ago with a promotion, I was able to go to the Bahamas, and that was awesome because it was like a vacation. You get to go and wrestle and do what you love, but also be in paradise. It was super cool. So I'm looking to go back. Maybe possibly to Trinidad and Tobago in the next month or so. They're putting plans together, so that would be another dream trip. But that was the first time that I've ever wrestled out of the country. But in the past 6 months, I've definitely been able to. I wrestled in Cleveland. We're gonna be in North Carolina next month. So just places that I've been maybe, but never wrestled in. So I'm just crossing them off my list.
Yeah, so it sounds like the traveling's actually really starting to pick up for you now.
It is, and it's crazy because with wrestling, there'll be weeks where there's nothing, like you're just dead. They're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs, and then there'll be weeks after that where everything is happening at once, where you're like working for one promotion in one city, and then tomorrow you got to fly to this one, and then the next day it's like you guys know that you can like space this out a little bit, right? You don't have to put everything in one single weekend. But I don't mind the travel. It's I actually think it's fun to get up and go to the airport and fly and all that stuff. I enjoy it. I know that some people hate it, but it's just like, for me, it's all perspective and gratitude. It's like I get to go and fly to all these different places and do what I love and connect with these people and try to shine a light and make a difference. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah, no. It sounds like that's an awesome attitude to have, especially like you said, if you're going to be traveling a lot, and this business, I'd imagine to be successful, you're probably going to be doing a lot of traveling. So
yeah.
So it sounds like you got a really good home family base there helping you out with this too. Like for support.
Yeah, absolutely. My wife, she's the glue that holds the Stanley household together, no doubt. She's not only willing, but she's happy to watch the kids while I'm gone, and that makes it so much easier because if I didn't think she was capable, which obviously isn't the case, or if I didn't think that, if I thought she resented me or anything like that, it'd make it a lot tougher. So I think that it takes a special girl to be married to a wrestler and put up with all my nonsense, no doubt.
Absolutely. No, that's awesome. Now, all right, NWA, you're working for NWA now. Billy Corgan, lead singer of the Smashing Pumpkins. Like, what a trip, right? You're working for the lead singer, and it's the NWA, historic Like, I mean, arguably the most historic wrestling organization in the world ever. How did you get involved even with the NWA? How did this come about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of my good friends is Tom Latimer, who is, one of the top guys in NWA. He actually was one of my trainers when I lived in Nashville. And I saw him killing it for NWA. And this was during the time where, not much was happening for me. And we were kind of just sitting and trying to formulate our next step. What I'm going to do, how am I going to get my name out there? How am I going to grow my brand? So I actually reached out to him and I was like, hey, man, what would you recommend I do to try to reach out to NWA, to at least give me a look? And he actually, God bless him, he sent me the head of the talent, Pat Kenny, his info, sent me his email, and he's like, yeah, just email him and let him know that I sent it to you. And so I did that, and I reached out to Pat, and I was like, hey, I'm one of Tom Latimer's good friends. I trained with him. I've been wrestling for about 4 or 5 years. I love what's going on with the NWA and think I'd be a good fit. And he emailed me back, to his credit, that same morning and said, hey, awesome, why don't you send me some matches? So using the analytical mind that I have, I said, you know what? My wrestling right now isn't going to be what sets me apart and gets me into the NWA. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'll send him some matches, but I also need to film a promo for him and send it to him. So I filmed a promo, and I was totally in Jamie Stanley mode. I played all the hits, did all the crazy nonsense that Jamie Stanley does, and sent that to him. And come to find out that is actually what got me hired over my wrestling tapes that I sent him. He was actually with Pope at the time, who was, Elijah Burke in WWE, another legend, another great guy that I owe a lot to. He's helped me out a lot since I've been at NWA. And he showed Pope, he's like, hey, take a look at this. And it was my promo. And Pope told Pat, he's like, you need to sign this guy, or you need to bring this guy in right now. So I owe a lot to Pope, because, he kind of gave me the green light, and obviously they take a lot of stock in what he has to say. So between him and Pat, and a couple other guys that they showed the video to, they said, okay, let's give him a try. And that was, June or July of last year. And so they brought me in August or September of last year. And that was when I was in St. Louis for NWA 73. So I was very blessed to get an opportunity, and I'm just trying to make the most out of it ever since. And I couldn't be happier at NWA. Billy is awesome. For being a rock star, a world renowned superstar, you couldn't find a more down to earth guy who will take the time to talk to you and explain to you. And he's never too busy for anybody and never big leagues anybody. You can tell how passionate he is about his wrestling product. And that's the reason why it's been so successful, because it's his baby and he's putting everything that he has into it. And he's just a super, I wouldn't want anybody else. Couldn't ask for a better boss than Billy.
Yeah, man. It's funny. As I'm hearing you talk, we did a few phone interviews back in the day with Kyle Davis, Joe Galley. Yeah. And we had Jordan Clearwater on here recently too. And one thing that seems to be synonymous with all this is everybody seems to really pitch in at the NWA. It really seems like a lot of people are backstage working with each other, and it kind of comes off, because and this is my opinion, true. I watch everything, to stay on top of things with this. But I feel like when I think what separates NWA is they do have really good storytelling. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got a story, and there's always a build for everything.
Yes, absolutely. Every single person is in some kind of angle or storyline. There's not just throwaway matches or squash matches just to do it. Every single person, they have a story arc that has a beginning, middle, and end. And like you said, the great thing about it is all the talent. We have a huge input on what we have to say, to where, even to the point where, for instance, one of the tapings that we had, I had a podium interview with Kyle Davis, and I said, okay, well, anything you want me to hit, any bullet points or anything? And literally they just said, just go out there and be Jamie Stanley. It's like, okay, you're going to get what you asked for. It's famous last words, first of all. But it's just super cool to be able to, it just makes you feel more valued, when you don't have those shackles on you, and that you don't have a script that you have to read verbatim. Obviously, if you have bullet points and things that you want to get across, that's great. But they just give us the freedom to be the characters that we want to be. And that's so refreshing. And I think that's why the morale in the locker room is so high.
Yeah. Now, that there is something to that promotion. I really do think if like they, I don't know, like I if they were on like another like platform or something, I feel like the NWA would even be bigger because I was saying this to someone too, like especially when you get to the NWA championship matches, and I noticed this with Nick Aldis range, Trevor has it too. Trevor brings something a little different too, but it feels like a big fight feel. It actually feels like, this is a heavyweight boxing championship match or a UFC title. It feels different.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about it. It's one of the probably the historically one of the most famous promotions, like the prestige that they bring to pro wrestling. It does feel like a big fight or a big fight feel. And Nick did a great job with bringing the class and the prestige and the pomp and circumstance, and the big, the 12 pounds of gold, and just bringing it back to prominence and to a certain amount of respect that it had and it didn't have for a while there until Billy kind of resurrected it. So, just we're all about, storylines and people having fun and telling, bringing the viewers and giving them something and not insulting their intelligence, but also bringing, like I said, a prestige and a realness and a big fight feel to try to do every fight, every single thing. It's kind of almost promoted like a boxing match, like you said, because it's not just, well, this is for the title. It's this guy versus this guy, and they have personal history, and this is why this fight is a big fight, and this is what it means, and these are the consequences and repercussions, and which goes back to the storytelling, which I think in a lot of promotions it's lost today, but it's fundamental, and it's what the fans want to see. They want to be entertained, and everybody loves a good story. So the better story we can tell them, then the better off everybody is.
Yeah, I was just thinking too. It was an Impact Slammiversary recently. We had Nick in a match there, and they made it a point to mention that they had somebody from AEW, MLW, NWA, and Impact all day. And I just thought, man, for a performer right now, could you ask for anything better? Like, all these promotions are working together, like more than any other time in the history of the business.
Yeah, it's so unheard of. It's crazy, especially since 5 years ago, not only were not these guys not working together, but they weren't even around. I mean, it was basically 5 or 10 years ago, it was WWE or bust. And then now that the NWA is back, Impact's making big moves, and MLW, and obviously AEW and New Japan. Now that they're all working together, it's like it's not only a great time to be a wrestler because you have so many options and you're not tied down to one certain promotion, but the fans get to see something awesome because it's almost like, okay, who's going to show up this time? Who's going to do this? It almost reminds me of the Monday Night Wars when you think, who from WWE is going to come over to WCW and vice versa. Who's going to defect? Who's going to show up tonight? And the fact that we have that uncertainty now, and like the almost the controversy of that, and just the expectation of something big is going to happen. I don't know what it's going to be. That makes people tune in, and that's what hooked me to begin with. So I think there's nothing but good that's coming from that.
Absolutely. Now, two last things here. Any good life advice for people who may be chasing their dreams? I noticed you have like a lot of quotes on your social media too sometimes, and you seem like you're very, like goal-oriented guy. What advice would you give people maybe chasing their dreams?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, a big theme for my career has been burn the ships. And basically what that harkens back to is Hernando Cortez was a conquistador or a pioneer back in the day. And what he would do is when he would enter into a new land or a new island or new territory that was uncharted, as soon as they got on that land, they would burn their ships, so there was no going back. So to kind of just live live our life that way, that was our reason for coming to Florida. We had all of our family in Tennessee, daycare, our jobs were in Tennessee, but we're like, you know what, if we're going to go all in on this dream, we have to burn the ships. And so there's no going back. I don't think there's anything wrong with, still having a plan B or a fallback clause or anything like that. But if you're really going to go all in on your dreams, like, you have to go all in on it and be serious and be obsessed with it. There's a difference between being obsessed and being interested. Interested people do the work when it's convenient for them or when they want to or when they feel like it. But obsessed people do it because it needs to be done, and their standard is it takes a higher precedence over their feelings. Who cares if they don't feel like it? Though that's their commitment, their discipline, their standard. So they're going to do it no matter what. I don't wake up in the morning at 5 a.m. and say, yay, I can't wait to get up and go to the gym and go do all this cardio. And there's not a day that happens, to be honest. Motivation comes and goes. And for most days in the morning at 5 a.m., I'm not motivated to go to the gym, but I am determined and I'm disciplined. And I feel like there's a higher calling and a purpose on my life to go and do these things. So just trying to be a good steward with all these gifts and these talents and these abilities and this platform that has been given to me, and just try to max it out, to 100%. So definitely burn the ships is one of them. And then one of my favorite verses, it's actually from the Bible. It's in Proverbs. It says, "As a man thinketh, so is he." So it's all about your mindset. Henry Ford said, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." So so much of what we can accomplish starts in how we think, in our mindset, and the way that we think about ourselves and about our others and about our job and what we can and can't do. So if you think that you can do something and you put everything that you can into making that goal a reality, I fully believe that you can go farther than you ever thought you could.
Yeah, that sounds great, man. I like it. Especially, the whole part too, especially about you're not always going to feel motivated. You just goes it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Never. Like I said, man, it's especially because I know how much I kick my own butt in the gym and how hard I go. It's like, man, I don't want to go and burn 1,500 calories and do sprints at the end and do all this stuff. I'd rather just sit home and watch TV. But then it's funny because once you do it over and over, it just becomes a habit, and then it's not up for debate. You can't debate with yourself on, well, am I going to go to the gym today? Am I not? No, I wake up, it's Monday. Oh, that means it's chest day. That means I go to the gym. So the more that you can make it a habit and a discipline, and not look at it as like, I have to go do this stuff, but like, I get to go do this stuff. Like, I'm blessed with an able body that is able to go and work out. I'm blessed with all of these things that I'm able to do, whether it's a podcast or whether it's, going and wrestling, or whether it's going and helping somebody out with, you get to do. So many people would give anything to be able to do what I do. And sometimes I take that for granted. So I have to tell myself, change the have to into the get to, and then the way that you look at things will change.
Great. Now, any goal? Obviously, I know you're eventually going to be on a national stage. That's the goal. But I mean, any other goals going on for the next year or two? What do you got going on, you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to be in the title picture at NWA, whether it's the national title or the junior heavyweight or even the NWA heavyweight championship. So I've been working very hard over these past 6 months or so, ever since I've been with NWA. I guess it's closer to 9 months now, to just continue to work my way up the ladder. But we have a taping every single quarter. Usually it's one a quarter. And so our next ones are in August and the end of August. So I have 66 days until the next taping. So counting down every day and trying to make the best of every day. So in these next 66 days, I just want to grow, with my wrestling, with my promos, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and just continue to get, 1% better every single day. Just, go in the right direction. But I would be lying, if I didn't say that the NWA Heavyweight Championship wasn't the top goal right now. So that's the number one thing on the list, and everything that I do is focused towards making it to that goal.
Absolutely. Now, Jamie, before I let you go, any promotion things coming up, social media? Please feel free.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter at the Jamie Stanley. Facebook is www.facebook.com/the Jamie Stanley. I have the NWA tapings are August 27th and 28th is NWA 74. And that's in St. Louis, back at the Chase, the historic venue that we did the last one at. And then the August 29th, 30th, and 31st will be back in Nashville for 3 days of tapings. So that's one of the next things on the list. July 30th and 31st, we were doing CYN, the Control Your Narrative, and that will be in North Carolina. So stay on the lookout for that. And then the next closest thing I have is in July, and that is for CWF. That's the Christian Wrestling Federation, and that's July 16th and 17th, and that's in Rockwell, Texas. So stay on the lookout for all those things. There'll be more announcements. I'll put more things out on my socials. But yeah, go ahead and follow me if you like motivation, if you like watching me eat cheesesteak, if you like workouts, if you like stupid dad jokes. I've got a little bit of everything for everybody. So I appreciate you guys following me.
All right, Jamie, thank you for your time. We appreciate having you. It's been a pleasure, and we wish you good luck, man, with everything.
Hey, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Let's do it again sometime, and God bless.